Hello, 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 and welcome to Leadership and Motivation. My name is Harrison, and I am one of your co hosts for today. And joining me is none other than Victoria. Welcome, Victoria.
Hello, good afternoon. Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Yeah, that's right. It
Thank-
depends where everybody's coming from.
yes,
I'm the
correct.
co-founder of Gold Zone Leadership Center. We're a small group of companies. The Leadership Center is part of the Gold Zone Group, and we have a medical clinic, a wellness center, a technology company, an investment company, a publishing company. What else do we have? And of course, our Leadership Center, which is our favorite project because it deals with all the interpersonal things, combining personal development with leadership development and business development. So we got all three things going there, the best of all three. So, Victoria, you're the CEO
I'm
of the
the
Gold Zone Group.
I'm the CEO of the GoZone Group, and yes, very excited to be here. And like Harrison said, our favorite subject to talk about is leadership, and that's our favorite company to work on. Oh no, it's a favoritism.
Favoritism, huh? Oh,
Yes.
whoops.
Oops. Good thing they are not our children. They can't talk to us, can't complain.
So, why is leadership your favorite, Victoria? Why the focus on leadership? Why not something else?
Well, leadership is everything, and it doesn't matter what I do in life. I got to lead in the area that I want the result. I want my results from. So, and I feel that over the years, as I learn more about leadership and looking at my results, I can't escape from leadership, and that's why it's my favorite subject, and I would say it's the most misunderstood subject, one of the most, at least from my point of view.
Why do you think that is? Why is it so misunderstood?
Misunderstood because a lot of people, when we think about leadership conventionally, we think about it from authority point of view, status point of view, title point of view, uh, mainly position and title, and that's what people associate leadership to. Whereas leadership is more than that.
So you're saying when we refer to leadership, they think of the person in charge, the person with the title, the person at the top.
Yes, correct. Person at the top, or person with
And
money,
what's that? Money too,
or
huh?
people with money. Yes, correct.
People with money.
You have some kind
And
of either you have some kind of knowledge, money, expertise, status at the top. Yeah, that's what people associate that with.
right. And what's different about the way that we talk about leadership, Victoria? Because to us, leadership is in everyday life. It applies to your home life, it applies to your health, to your finances, to how you interact with your children, your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whoever your spouse is, major
Yep.
partner, your parents. That leadership applies across the board. And a lot of
Yes.
people, what they do is they abdicate the leadership to other people who don't necessarily have their interests at heart, right?
Yeah. Yes. And yeah, when we abdicate to people, right, we are expecting them to give us what we want and hoping that they will know what we want and give it to us. But the problem is that if most people, well, this is my reality check over the years. Most people are more self-centered. We are more worried about ourselves than other people. So from that point of view, if we don't lead, if we don't communicate what we want, if we don't understand how to be clear with what we expect, or our expectation, and we don't if we don't understand that expectation, then we are going to miss the mark when it comes to getting what we want.
So you're saying leadership's about getting what you want.
Yeah,
And that's
if
why
it's not.
everybody should be a student of the leadership game, shouldn't they?
Yes, correct.
So
Hey,
the people who are leaders or in leadership positions who think they know everything and have stopped learning, then they're not students of the game. Then they're stuck in the past generation of thinking they know. And doesn't this lead to a generation gap where people think that they don't need to learn anymore, they don't need to do anymore? It's like your post
I know enough.
algorithm.
I'm sorry?
Like your post regarding the algorithm.
Yes, correct. And I think,
Okay?
yes,
What algorithm?
yes. Well, my post about algorithm is actually the bottom line of my post is understanding how algorithm works, whether it's on LinkedIn or in our life. And that what is algorithm? Algorithm is a process, is a step. There are the steps necessary for us to create the result we want, right? If we put out something, something is going to come back. So whatever we put out is going to reflect back to us based on the response that we get from whether it's from people, from the society, from our career, from our employer, from our team. Those are, for me, this is how algorithm works. Whatever I put out is going to be reflected back to me as a form of result.
As a form of result. So you're saying
Yes.
the algorithm is the algorithm and it's going to give you a result, and you can look at your result and see whether you're matching up with the algorithm or not.
Yeah, exactly. And
And
if
a
I
lot
don't
of
get my
people,
result, I got to do something. I got to learn more about the algorithm. Maybe I didn't understand the algorithm. That's why I'm not getting the result I want.
right.
And I also mentioned that algorithm is like a rule. Any game we play in life, I used to play netball. So netball has its own rule. You can't, you basically once you catch the ball, you can't move. If you move, you're basically you're yeah, you get penalty.
Right.
You lose the
So for today, we're going to talk about leadership and motivation. And why did you want to do this subject today, Victoria? So what's the background? I know you did a poll, and in the poll, leadership and motivation came out number one, but you
yeah.
personally preferred this subject. Why is that?
Why is that? Before I answer that question, I want to ask everyone here, what why are you motivated to be here at this session to talk about motivation? Are you here? Yeah, are you motivated to be here? And if you are, why? And if you are not motivated to be here, but you are here, why? I'm very curious about. I'm very curious why are people here when it comes to learning more about leadership and motivation. If you are willing to comment, so that's what I want to ask. Well, for me, talking to so many different level of leaders over the years, one of the biggest challenge that most leaders face are motivating people. How to motivate other people. And I get that a lot when I talk to people. Oh, because I like to understand people, leaders, because a lot of what people are facing as a challenge so that we can see how we can help them. And everyone has different set of challenges. Some are more than others. And if I ask the question, what's your biggest leadership challenge? Motivation. How to motivate my team? How to feel more motivated?
Would it surprise you and everyone to know that you can't motivate anyone?
You mean you're asking me? Would that surprise me?
Would it surprise you? Can't motivate anyone.
For me, I'm not surprised now, but yes, in the past.
And why is it you can't motivate anyone? To me, people do things for their own reasons. And traditionally, people have, or leaders or managers or individuals have tried to motivate people by using the most basic form possible, and that's the carrot and the stick.
Yeah.
That's traditionally how it's done. So, with children, for example, the parents will reward the child that gives them what they want, does what they want, doesn't speak up, doesn't complain, doesn't moan, doesn't cry, doesn't cause a problem, and they'll reward them by giving them more goodies and more attention. And then the child that is the misbehaving one, the one that is resistant, the one that cries and throws a fit and whatnot, gets the stick. And governments use the stick and they try and reward the behavior they want, and they use the stick. Now, why doesn't that work? Well, it does work in an emergency, right, Victoria? If you're under
Yeah.
pressure, you can get something done. It might work short term, but does it work today?
No, not in the long term. It's not sustainable.
So then what motivates people? And what's the fast track, the short version that we can tell people right up front here on what motivates people? Because if they're motivated for their own reasons, what are their own reasons?
Yes, exactly. What are the reasons, right? And that's what we are going to discuss more today. And Harrison, would you like to go on the look at the comment and we can talk more about it?
Sure ahead. You pick them and you.
So I have Mario say that leadership is one of the most wanted skill in organizations. Had a conversation with Golden Gate University director who shared that despite many causes they offer to despite the causes that they offer to students and organization, the one organization and public are interested in is indeed leadership. That's very interesting. I would guess one of the reasons why leadership is so popular is because it's connected to power and status. Because leadership means I have power.
Right.
And yeah, so thank you, Mario, for sharing that. And Surens Pinaka say that need to differentiate boss and leadership question mark. Would you like to answer that, Harrison? I think that's a question.
Yes. Well, most people think of the person in charge as being the boss. But that doesn't necessarily infer leadership because they might be a manager, they might be the person in charge, but are they actually leading?
Yeah,
It's like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
I think
So
that's
you
a
can't
great
force the
example.
horse to drink. So
Yeah.
the
What is the
boss, yeah, go on.
I wanted to say it's the same as dog, because many people are dog owners, around the world. I wanted to say Singapore, but yeah, we are talking about people from all over the place.
Yeah.
It's one of the most common. Well, most of us have pets before, and from my experience, dog is the same thing. You can't force them. You are the owner, but you can't force them to do anything. You got to lead them. You got to use a different method to influence. In fact, influencing them is probably the easiest. You can't really force them to walk with you. You can't. If you pull them, they get more resistance.
Well, that's like children too, isn't it?
Yes.
So all of us parents will relate to wanting the children to clean up their room.
Yep.
Well, if we sit on the couch and we say to them, go clean up your room, what's the chance of them doing it?
They will basically treat it as if they didn't hear you and go do other things.
And on the way to the room, they'll get distracted by all the different things along the way.
That's right. That's right.
So if we understand what motivates people, that children are highly motivated by some things and very demotivated by others, and being told what to do demotivates children and adults alike. And a lot of us go around giving advice and telling people what to do and wondering why nobody's listening.
Yep. And get frustrated.
It's funny, isn't it? So the most effective way to get children to clean up their room, is it to bribe them? No.
You mean bribe? No, not bribe.
Bribe them? No, because every time you need the room cleaned, you're going to have to offer a bribe, and then the bribe has to get bigger and bigger. That doesn't punish them. No. So how do you do it? You have to inspire them to want to do it. If they want to do it, then they're going to do it. And if you do it with them, because they love to do things with the parents. So if you say, let's go clean up the room, and you have fun doing
Play
it,
some
anything you have
music.
fun, right?
Play some music.
All right. Play some music, have some fun, sing a song, do a dance. And how many of us apply that same theory, that same success formula in our workplaces? We sit around, we have meetings, we allocate to-dos, we check on the progress of projects, we check on the to-dos, we check on the vital areas, the key points, the mission critical stuff. We check on those. Everybody okay? Yeah, everybody good? Anything for me? No. Okay, off you go. And that's so different from what works, isn't it?
Yes. Well, it's a to-do list. No one likes to just have to-do list. No one, if you just give them a to-do, a task-oriented stuff, and yeah, it's like, they're just one number in the within the organization. It's just very disengaging.
Yes. So you want to go back to your comments?
Sure. So yeah, Heather Pollock say that differentiating between leadership and manager or boss. show leadership in all areas, not just when you're in charge. It's true. Leading can be at all levels. It's not just when we are in charge. And Yvonne said that she wants to be inspired to be, I guess you are saying, when I ask the question, why are you here? To be inspired. And Li Xiang wants to learn and to be inspired. And Shiren said that motivation is intrinsic, which is true. And sometimes one needs to be inspired to feel motivated. And what else? Mario, I think this was in extension to what we discussed just now about the leadership being a popular subject. I believe we use the word leadership very loose. When we start to talk about carrot and stick, we already moved away from the essential of leadership. True, and true.
And why is there this gap between what we know and what we do? Because most of us would admit that we don't do what we know, isn't it?
Yes. Well, sometimes I can speak for myself. When I get frustrated, it's very easy to go into the default of carrot and stick. If you don't do this, if you do this, I'll give you this. If you don't do it, you will have a consequence.
So you're saying you'll default to that when you're stressed?
Yes. When I'm highly stressed, I will go into that default because I get impatient when I'm stressed.
Well, that can't be just you, because if our workplaces are full of people who are tired, stressed, depressed, anxious, worried all the time, and more pressure all the time, then they're going to be in these default modes. They're going to be using the shortcuts. How can I get this result the fastest?
Correct. And I think since I mentioned about stress, right, one of the things that a lot of leadership training don't talk about is how are we as a leader when we are stressed versus when we are not stressed. And how do we know whether we are acting out or from our stress? I think this area is not much talk about.
Well, if people are stressed most of the time, let's say 80% of the time, then their leadership behavior 80% of the time is that particular way, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. So that's one thing that, and we have a few other comments. You want to move on and we come back to the comment first, or we carry on to talk about the different level of motivation, and then we can bring that back to the comments.
I saw a comment there about Jeffrey Pfeiffer. He's one of my favorites, talking about power and leadership. And he has a lot to say, this Jeffrey Pfeiffer. But
Psychopath.
Yes, we'll come back to the comments. I just noticed that in the corner of my eye.
Is that the one who talked about Machiavellian? No.
Oh,
it's
yes.
Different person. He's the same person.
Yeah, same guy. Machiavellianism and power, and that everybody needs to be a student of power, because if you want to get anything done, it takes power to do it. And a lot of people have a negative connotation with power.
Yes.
And so they're motivated by anti-power, and they're trying to get things done by being powerless. So how does that work? So we have to be students of the power game.
Actually, you brought up a good point. I used to judge, before I understand more about leadership and power, I used to have judgment about people who look like they are either abusing their power because of their status, money, or authority or title. And as I go through my leadership journey, right, I tend to be more nice. Nice as in I try to nice people into doing things. But the problem with being too nice is that it doesn't work. It's not effective. And when I'm too nice, the power is less. People don't respect you when you're too nice.
Yes, it's a big problem being nice, because the people who are nice when they don't get what they want, often enough they become nasty. So there's this swing from nice to nasty, and a lot of people over a long period of time are not getting what they want, and they end up being nasty as the primary mode of leading or interacting with people. And what happens is, because people, like you mentioned, that you have this negative experience of people misusing power, So you have a negative association with power and you don't want to be like them, which is a
Yeah.
good quality not to want to be like them. It's like
Yeah.
a giant narcissist with a lot of power. You don't want to be like them because you don't want to
Yeah.
look like a narcissist. But
Or I don't
if
want to
you
be a
avoid,
narcissist.
yeah. So if well, you don't want to look like one, you don't want to be one,
like
you know,
one.
you want to do it different. So you try the nice route, but nice doesn't get the job done.
No.
Because sometimes people need their butts kicked. Sometimes they need the riot act. Sometimes they do need the stick. And they do need to respect the power. Because
Yes.
if they don't, how does an organization
Oh,
maintain order? And when there's high pressure and high risk, who's taking the risk?
yeah. Well, the management, the key people in charge are the one taking the risk. And you don't want to be. What happens is that with being too nice, you become like a doormat, and then you try to cater to everyone's feelings, and that won't work from a performance point of view, because really they just don't take you as seriously, and they feel that they can get away with it because you are nice.
And isn't this a problem with a lot of salespeople, Victoria? They try and nice their way into sales. They try
Yes.
and nice you into buying
Yeah.
instead of asking you what you want and then leading you through the process of getting clear what you want, the pros and cons, and how they can help you to get what you want
Yeah.
in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of money. Instead of leading you through it, they try and nice you through it.
Yeah.
And this is very annoying. And because we're doing a major recruitment drive at the moment for managing director, sales director, relationship managers in our Singapore Leadership Center in this project, so we have a lot of applicants. We have many all the time, hundreds come in, and the opposite of what people think, that it's hard to get, to find people. It's actually hard to find great people. So anyway, people will message us, and it's like basically buy my thing. And here's my list of specifications.
Credential.
I did this, work here, did that, and I'm so great, and you should hire me. I mean,
Yeah.
they don't know how to sell, because
Yeah.
how you sell it, first question should be, what are you looking for? And why are you looking for that? Isn't it? What are you looking for? It's like
Yeah.
going to buy a car. Here, buy my car. It has 4 wheels. Yes, they all have 4 wheels. There's a steering wheel. Yes, there's a steering wheel. Got 4 seats. Oh, very exciting.
Yeah. Because since you mentioned car, right, is the company looking for Toyota, Nissan, or BMW, or Mercedes, or because they're all very different, or Hyundai, whether I pronounce it correctly or not, that's my understanding. Hyundai, and what else? Or Rolls-Royce or Maybach, because we are all different. Every single vehicle has a contribution to different people. Why would it be different for our team members?
That's exactly right. Hey, shall we dive in and look at some slides on what motivates people and talk about
Sure.
needs and stuff?
Sure.
Now a good
Go
time to
for
do
it.
it?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna go through a few slides, and then I'll come back to you and ask you questions in between, Victoria?
Yep.
All right, let's do it. The first thing I want to do is I want to take a look at I want to take a look at something which I think is very relevant to this subject for today, and that is this. Not that. It's this. Dung dung. Oh, what do we have here? We have a cylinder. And a cylinder, depending on which direction you look at it, if you look at it from one direction, the cylinder is a circle. And if you look at it from the other direction, it's a square. So a lot of people get caught up in right and wrong, good and bad, and stuck on their point of view. And they get very fixated that they're right. And what they don't realize is that your point of view is what you see from. And if you argue with someone about their point of view that they're wrong in what they're seeing, you're missing the fact that you're having 2 different points of view. So in order to have a conversation, you've got to agree on the point of view before you discuss the details. And I like to refer to this as rounds and squares to remember the different point of view. So Victoria, anything you want to say about that before we go on with the other pieces?
Well, I like what you say about, we didn't realize that we are arguing with people around there, because I see circle, you see square, so we are both right. And we end up in a non-ending argument and wondering why we are both frustrated. I want to, actually, I thought of an example, very quick one. We used to have this client who is a French but based in Singapore, went back to France for a while, and the company emailed him something. So I asked him, "Hey, did you receive our email?" He said, "No, I didn't receive it." And we went to and fro. It was because we sent the email out. I checked on our side, but he insists that he didn't receive it. I even gave him the timing. Guess what? He's right and I'm right. We did send the email out, and he's right that he didn't receive it. You know why? Because the time zone that he received in was a different time zone that I was talking about.
So if you'd have been stuck on your position, on your point of view, you would have
Yes.
gone to the handbasket, isn't it?
That's right.
That's a great example. So if we know this, we want to keep an open mind that when we're talking to somebody, from their point of view, they're right. From your point of view, you're right. So rather than trying to be right and wrong, better to understand and to be interested. And I've said this a lot to people, that you want to be interested and not interesting. You want to ask questions about the other person to find out what their likes and hopes and dreams and motivations and what their point of view is before you talk about anything else, because you can't motivate somebody with what motivates you. You have to motivate them with what motivates them. And that's the next thing we're going to get into now, Victoria. Thank you. And here it is. People do things for their reasons, and all behavior is driven by unmet needs. And allow me to explain this. When I first put this slide together, I had all human behavior is driven by unmet emotional needs. And this is only partially true, because it's not just human behavior, it's also animal behavior. So any behavior from anyone is driven by unmet needs, not just emotional needs, but emotional needs are often the ones that are underrated and not taken into account. And we think of the physical needs, we need to get paid, we need to have a roof, we need to have food and clothing. And we're going to talk about how that plays out in terms of motivation. But this is a very key thing to understand motivation, because we're motivated by these unmet needs. And I'm going to explain the different levels of unmet needs in more detail. Anything you want to add, Victoria?
No, I think I think you carry on, because I think the slides that you're going to share later will help the participants have a little bit more understanding.
Okay, very good. I will continue. So many of us are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy. It's very well known, but not everybody knows about it. He's passed away already. He was a psychologist who studied human behavior and what motivated different types of behavior. And he came up with a hierarchy of needs, that our lower level needs needed to be met. And once they were met, then we would move on to the next level of needs. And once they were met, we'd move on to the next level of needs, and so on and so forth up the hierarchy. He would say that when your lower level needs are not met, you would not be interested in your higher level needs, and they wouldn't be something that would concern you, because all your attention goes on the unmet lower level needs. So in order to motivate someone, you have to understand what level of needs that you're dealing with. Now, this hierarchy of needs is not the only thing that we use. In terms of Gold Zone, we use the 7 chakra system, because they correspond exactly to the same 7 levels of, unmet needs, the 7 chakras, and also the 7 levels of childhood development, and also the 7 primary areas of emotion, and plus a few others. So there's a lot of 7s that overlap and correspond. So it's not just Maslow's hierarchy here. So on the left of your screen, what you see are the main areas of unmet needs. And what we're going to do is we're going to break them down and look at them from an emotional point of view. And then we're going to look at them in much more detail, so that you can understand when someone doesn't have, for example, their need for power, when it's not met, what happens to them? What do they do? What kind of behavior do they demonstrate? And how do you meet those power needs? Because if you think about what's a power need, it's a need for control. And a lot of people in today's world feel insecure and out of control, so they obsess about security, control, and power. So I'm going to put this all into context so we can understand. And let's take a look at these different 7 levels in terms of emotion. So here are 7 primary levels of emotion. And you see level 7, serenity, is very different from level 1, which is numb. So sometimes numb can look like serenity. Numb is the absence of feeling, whereas serenity on level 7, you can feel the whole range of all the different emotions below, and you're at peace with them, you've reconciled them, and you can go in and out of them at any time. Whereas when you're numb, you struggle to feel anything because you can't feel anything, and it's defined, the absence of feeling. Whereas serenity, you can feel it all and you're in this oneness. And if you look on the left-hand side to Maslow's hierarchy, transcendence, self-realization, self-actualization is the pinnacle. That's what we all aspire to arrive at in our lifelong journey on our quest. That's where we want to get to. But many of us are stuck on these lower level emotions with these lower level needs unmet. And throughout our development, from the time that we're born as children, we grow up, and then we go to school and we graduate school, and then we go working. And then as we go through our careers, what happens is any area that we get stuck on our unmet needs becomes our lifelong obsession, trying to meet them. So if we are worried about safety and feeling unsafe physically, then we're going to be obsessed with feeling secure. And if we feel insecure, we're going to be obsessed with power and status. And that's going to motivate us. And that's what we're going to obsess with. So when you talk to people from a leadership point of view, from a sales point of view, from a getting to know people perspective, you just chit chat with them and you be interested, and they will share with you quite easily in a conversational way a lot of what their unmet needs are, what they're focused on, and where they're going. So ideally, what you would want to do is to go top down, because it's at the top where you have your vision. And if you're motivated by transcendence, self-realization, self-actualization, that then is going to pull you up through all the different areas and through all the other challenges that you might have. Your eye is on the top, versus what a lot of people are is they're very fixated here on these lower levels, on obsessing these. And a vision itself can inspire you to overcome those challenges because you're focused on where you want to go versus what's in your way. Fear, when we are here obsessed with security, and we know this from the finance industry, where a lot of people invest because they're investing for financial security. They're worried about all the things that can go wrong, and that's driven by fear. So the fear is of what could go wrong, of what they could lose, of what they'll do if they lose their job, their work, their health. So fear is what's driving them. So they really feel insecure. They worry about safety and security, and they can see the next level up of power. They're going to feel more power, more successful, more having arrived when they're on this level is taken care of. So Victoria, anything you want to add to this before we get to the next one?
No, I think it's a good, what you explained is very good. And what you shared was quite clear from my point of view. And what I'm hearing is that whatever that I'm obsessed with, I don't have.
Yes. Like you don't obsess with things that you have.
Yes.
And in fact, once we acquire something, whether it's a quality or an item, we will enjoy it for a short period of time, and then we kind of take it for granted.
Yes.
We take it for granted, and then it doesn't motivate us anymore. We're looking for the next thing. And
it
the
becomes
next
normal.
thing.
It will normalize, right. and it becomes like wallflower. And then we, like you say, we obsess with the next thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you can tell where someone's at if they're playing power games. if they're trying to dominate, if they're trying to suppress people, if they're trying to compete and be on top, because that competition really is in the power zone there.
Yeah.
Power, which you can see it's only halfway up, because above power is esteem, enthusiasm, passion, creativity, self-expression, and your visionary leadership is at the top.
Yeah.
And we're going to
I want to, Harrison, can
Yep.
you keep this slide? Since we are talking about motivation and I've been talking to people about communication too, how do you motivate or how do you inspire and motivate people through your communication? Because these 7 levels, right, is a good way to gauge where our communication, how do people feel when we communicate? And if I don't understand my emotion, whether I'm numb or whether I'm in fear or whether I'm angry, people are going to respond to us according to where we are really at this between these 7 levels.
Yes, people will respond to where we're at, because each of these 7 levels has a paradigm and it has a communication style. For example, people who are into safety and security have a language of safety and security, and you just need to listen to them objectively, and you can hear all the security pieces that are in their conversation. And they might like to think that they're growth mindset and growth minded, and they're looking for advancement, and they're doing this, but as long as it doesn't involve any risk. And the minute that they get afraid of risk, you know where they're at. They're there in level 3 or below, worried about risk. Because people in level 4 don't worry about risk. You take calculated risks. Level 4, 5, 6, and 7 are all calculated risks. You'll take the risk because you know for a fact that risk and reward go together hand in hand. So if you're afraid of taking risks, you're going to get a whole lot less reward. So when people worry all the time, worry, you know that's a level 3.
Well, that's a reflection of being insecure, because I've been on both sides. So when I'm insecure, I'm more worried about losing. And when I feel secure about myself, I'm less worried about losing. I'm willing to take more calculated risks, knowing that I'm in more control when that happens. So the security and the risk actually do go hand in hand. And I'm not talking about reckless risk taking. I'm talking about you actually know exactly what risk you are taking, and you're making a really informed decision, knowing what's the potential losses if it doesn't go your way, and what's the upside when it goes your way.
Yes. And, Victoria, just for a bit of history, I've been sharing these different levels with people for 25 years. So this is 25-year-old conversation. And I have talked to, thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people in different forums, formats, venues about this, one-on-one, with couples, with leaders, with business owners, with founders, with investors, with employees, with project managers. Every level I've talked to people about this. And we have some pretty sophisticated tests that people can fill out, answer a bunch of questions to determine which of these 7 levels somebody is at most of the time. And most people think that they're higher than what they are in reality, because there's mentally where we think we are, and then there's emotionally where we actually are on a physical level. And most people, you might be surprised, the workaday world, most people are level 3. That fear dominates their psyche and their actions and their choices, and that they're worried about losing their job. They're worried about getting the next job. They're worried all the time. And as a leader, if somebody's worried all the time, what we need to do is take care of that worry, to reassure them. And it's the language of reassurance. Before we talk to them about the vision, we have to reassure them about their security. And this part, a lot of people miss. They just talk vision. Here's where we're going. Here's what we're going to do. And everybody's going yawn, because, hey, you're talking vision. You're talking transcendence here, and we're worried about paying the rent next week. So until you can take care of the security for next week and the job security with all these people being laid off, then what's the point of talking about vision? So that can be handled in communication. And that's why communication from a leader's point of view is so powerful.
Yeah. Well, also the leader has to be moved by the vision that they are sharing. If they themselves are not moved, how are you going to inspire other people with the same vision?
Yep, that's right. And so you have to be motivated yourself before you can deal with someone else's motivation. And if you're
Yeah.
motivated by greed, that's going to come across. If you're motivated by power and control and security, then that's going to come across. But if you're motivated by the greatest good for the greatest number, that would be a level 7.
Yeah.
Greatest good for the greatest number, that will also come across. And then people will feel it. And there's something about you that they can't put their finger on.
Yeah.
And it's very unusual to meet people like that because they're worth their weight in gold.
Yeah.
So
Harrison,
Victoria,
yeah, I have a
I'm just-
question.
yeah,
Yes.
go ahead.
Raymond asked, I think it's a good question so that we can all be on the same page. Isn't self-actualization where we keep trying to achieve the next level of satisfaction? You want to clarify that?
Actually, no. Self-actualization is when you get to the top, when you've actually actualized. Some people think that when you get self-actualized, you go fishing and you give up the game and you relax and live the good life and sit under a coconut palm and drink a pina colada. That's not self-actualization, because what you realize if you have tried that, and believe me, I have done that. I went to Bali, I rented a villa on a cliff, and I sat there under the coconut palm in the Bali Benong and I drank pina coladas and I said, okay, is this it? And then very soon you get bored. All your gremlins come up and you're bored. And you wonder, what am I going to do? I'm going to find some mischief to get up to, something to entertain myself. So this is not self-actualization. And that's why retirement doesn't work for most people. Most retirees are the busiest people that you can find are retirees. If you want to have a conversation or a meeting with someone, find someone really busy and they will make time for you. You get a retiree and they can't meet you for 3 weeks because they've got to go to the golf, got to have this meeting, that meeting, the other meeting. It's true, isn't it, Victoria?
Yes. Actually, I'm surprised at how busy retirees are.
That's right.
I've met a lot of retirees who are real busy. I'm like, what are you busy with? And
Oh, man.
I have this retiree who told me that a lot of people misunderstood retirement, and it actually caused a lot of mental health issue that most people don't talk about because they feel they don't belong to anything because they got nothing to do. They have the money but feel lost.
So the question, thank you, Victoria. The question is, what does transcendence, self-realization, self-actualization actually look like? It means that you've met all the lower level needs and you are focused on your spiritual needs. Now, a lot of people will focus on their spiritual needs and they'll miss out all the other lower level needs. So that doesn't work. And our next slide, I'm going to get into all the different levels of needs. Let's do that, shall we?
Yep, we do have quite a lot of questions and comments. In case we can't address all of them, we will be replying it later in writing.
We definitely won't be able to get to all of them, Victoria.
Yeah.
So yeah, if everybody knows that you're going to reply to them.
Yeah.
Excellent. But we'll get as many as we can. So let's take a look at, I hope you can see this. This is a bit more detailed and allow me to explain. I'll make myself smaller. There we go. So looking at if you notice over on the far side of your left screen, we've still got Maslow's hierarchy, and then we've got 4 other words: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And what happens is your lower level needs are more physical of nature, and then you have your emotional needs, and then you have your mental needs, and then you have your spiritual ones, the higher ones at the top. So let's go top down, looking at the transcendent, self-actualization, self-realization needs. So your needs for contribution, for purpose, for meaning, for having a reason why you're doing things, this is our highest level of values and virtues and things that have meaning to us. So this at the top is what motivates people at the highest level. And the next one down are self-expression, pleasure, joy, beauty, fulfillment, art, and all the aesthetic things. So when you just focus on spiritual, a lot of people miss this self-expression, beauty, passion side. And if your life isn't filled with passion and meaning and purpose, then that's these 2 higher level areas missing, level 6 and level 7. So below that, we have a need for validation, for attention, for empowerment, for acknowledgement. We have a need to be heard and a need for growth. So these will motivate people in this area. If you're motivated by growth, that's where your motivation is. And then below that is power, control, success, achievement, recognition, reputation, and status. So status is a need. And a lot of people think that status is an option, that, oh, if I don't have any status, it doesn't matter. But actually, it's a need to have status, a need for reputation, a need for recognition, a need to achieve things. And when these are not met, then they play out in all kinds of weird ways.
Harrison,
Below that, yes.
isn't personal branding part of building status and recognition?
You nailed it. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So on LinkedIn, a lot of people are talking about personal branding for people to get to know you, to know who you are, to know your personality, to know what expertise you have, what skills you have, what value you can add. And that is a need. And so if that need's not met, how does that play out, Victoria?
Oh, I play in all the wrong places. You get the wrong attention. Huh?
How do you feel?
How do I feel if the needs are not met?
Yeah.
Well, essentially, it feels like, you feel unseen, you feel invisible, you feel like you're not recognized, you feel you're not being valued, you feel like nobody sees you, and you feel like you got to work harder and harder. And one day, someone will recognize me.
And do they? No.
No, it doesn't happen that way. Sorry, unless you are that lucky.
So what happens is if you're leading a team of people, you need to know which one of these levels people have fulfilled the need on and which they don't. So a lot of people, if they're obsessed with security, you can see on the security level, there's love, belonging, affection, touch, comfort, wanted, needed, and connection. And how many people are craving touch? They don't get enough touch when they're children. And when they're adults, we all keep at arm's length. And some cultures are very touchy-feely, but here in Singapore and in Asia, is touch something that people get an abundance of or a shortage of?
No. Shortage of. And people are looking for love in all the wrong places.
And how does that play out on a team, Victoria? So if the team is missing touch and they're missing affection and they're missing comfort, how does it play out?
They don't feel engaged. It's really just low engagement, and they just go in, do the physical and the basic stuff, get the job done, and that's it. Once in a while, they get excited about a few things, but most of the time, and also it plays out in needing social connection, social bonding with your colleagues.
Social connection. And isn't it true in the old days, like we go back a few decades, where we would get our spiritual needs from church, we would get our social needs from our social circle, and we would get our monetary needs from work and some fulfillment there, but mostly was about having a job to get paid to live a life, and our family would be separate. Whereas today, a lot of these are all jumbled up. So the company is responsible for fulfilling people's spiritual needs. So this is how things have evolved. And as leaders, don't we have to take this into account and ask ourselves, where are the people that we are leading on this scale of needs? And what do they have fulfilled already? And what are they missing? And somebody who's focused on a particular need, like some people, they might have a need for self-expression, for beauty, for art, for aesthetic. If they have that need and you can cater to that need, you don't need to motivate them because they're already motivated. The people who are driven by power are already motivated and driven by power. You just got to show them by making the connection between what you're asking them to do and what they're going to get. And that's why communication is so powerful, because you're making the connection between what you're asking them to do and how that's going to meet their particular need. And this part of communication is so missing for most people. They don't have the ability to make that connection for people, because when you do, people will take action very fast.
Yeah, agree. And it's all about meeting the right need with the right people so that there's alignment at every level.
Yes. And the different levels of leaders, Victoria, these unmet needs also drive different types of leadership. So someone who's obsessed with security is going to be a security-oriented leader. They're not going
Yeah.
to take risks. They're not going to speak up.
Yeah, which is where the nice is. No, take the minimum risk. I also want to just on what we just discussed before. It also is in line with another challenge that a lot of leaders would have is how do you meet expectation? The mismatch of expectation is also one of the challenge that people face. So understanding this, you'll be able to understand each other's expectation. And the best thing is that if there's no fit between both parties, it's better to let everyone go their own way.
Well, an example of that, Victoria, is where the leader wants to get the job done, pay the minimum, and get the job done. And the person going to work for the company has an expectation that the company provide them with a therapist, stress management, provide them with spiritual satisfaction and purpose and meaning and value and emotional needs. And all these things are expected by the team member, whereas the company just wants to get the job done, pay the least, and get the job done as much as they can. Then there's a mismatch, isn't there? And people are going to be unhappy.
And if the company don't believe in training and upgrading, it's the same thing. I had this employer who said to me that I hire them, I pay them money. They should be getting the job done. Why should I do anything more? So his expectation is that I pay you a salary and you should know what you need to do. Why should you expect more from me?
Yes. And why wouldn't a company invest in training and support of their people? Because if our biggest asset is the people that work with us, in all organizations, the biggest asset is the people. Even using AI and technology and all that is people that have to use it. So the people being the biggest asset, one of the fears that companies have is that if they invest too much money, time, and energy helping people to realize their self-actualization, self-realization, to get to transcendence, that they're going to leave and all their investment is down the drain. But what if you looked at it completely differently and you said, okay, I'm going to invest in everybody's level 7 needs, top of the hierarchy, and I'm going to do it unconditionally, unreservedly. And if they want to leave because they're not a match for us as an organization, yeehaw, let's celebrate and have a party, because if they're not right for us, we're not right for them, then that's a win that they leave. It's worse if people are not right for us and they stay. Isn't that worse?
Yeah.
So if people leave and take your investment with them, that's a great thing. It's fantastic, because you're then going to have the people who are left are going to be engaged with what it is that you really do at the core.
Yeah. And you get a high level of engagement with the right people.
And isn't that the same, Victoria, with clients of any business?
Yes. Exactly. Same with clients, same with vendors. It actually applies to all levels. Investors, if you have the right fit, it's going to be a lot easier. If you have the wrong fit, there'll be more struggle.
So take an investor as an example. If the investor just wants their return, they want it on time, they don't care if the company ruins the environment, they don't care if the company invests in its people, they don't care if the company treats people well, they don't care if the company overpromises and underdelivers, as long as they get their return. So you might not want an investor like that.
Okay, that depends on the company, where it also depends on what a company is wanting, right?
If the company just wants to pay the least and make the most, then those type of investors and the company are a good match, aren't they?
Yes, correct.
But how many people here in our live session are like that, are wanting to pay the least to get the most, and are willing to screw people down to the lowest dollar, and whether they can pay their families or pay their bills, you don't care. You just want to get the cheapest price. And if someone's not willing to give it to you, someone else will sell it to you at that price. And that kind of business is very common, and a lot of people are like that, and it's rounds and squares. It's not
Yeah.
wrong. It's just a choice. But if you're doing your business and your work because you have a higher purpose, because it's connected to your self-realization, self-actualization, and it has you bouncing out of bed because you're excited, you're passionate about what you're doing, you're making a difference in other people's lives, you're feeling fulfilled, because feeling of fulfillment happens at a higher level. It doesn't happen on the lower levels. Anything below success, security, safety, and the physical needs are not going to have any fulfillment. You won't feel fulfilled at that level. So if you want people to feel fulfilled, you have to cater to the needs for power. And today, in a highly competitive job market, in a highly competitive business market, isn't a need for fulfillment up there?
Yes. Also, the younger generation are looking for more fulfillment. Very different from the older generation.
So, Victoria, a lot of people who work with you, your team is in their 20s. A lot
Yeah.
of them are in their 20s. So, you find that people in their 20s are motivated by different things than people in their 40s, 50s?
And 30s, because we have Gen Z, Gen Y, Gen X, and Boomers. And this is not age discrimination. It's just general. If you look in general, they do have a similar behavior. But age doesn't just because someone is older doesn't mean they are not open. Technically, we all have more. Most of us who are in the older category, we will have more experience, and we have a lot more field experience. We might have a lot of experience that we succeed in. But for those people who have failed too much over long period, they tend to be more fixated and less open. And that's the part of the reason why younger generation tend to be slightly more open, because they have failed lesser. So they are a little bit more open.
I think also the younger generation, Victoria, they're more wired up with technology and
Yes.
they're more
More
flexible from that
exposed.
point of view.
Yes, they are
So
more exposed.
what do the older generations do have had a lot of failures? Because I think that there's a missing bridge with how to recover from failure, because a lot of people give up when they fail. And if
Yeah.
they fail too many times, they have a crash and then they give up on their hopes and dreams and goals. And these are the higher level needs: hopes, dreams, goals, the vision. When you have some aspiration that pulls you forward, and if you give up on that, then you're going to be wanting to go fishing.
Dejected. Yeah. And then
And
the
those,
general reason they give themselves is, I'm old anyway. What's
yep.
the point? Oh, I should be contented. It's just, it's not worth it. And I got to make sure that I'm secure. My security is in place, so I shouldn't be taking too much risk. That's the typical reason why what they would say to themselves.
So people who are worried about risk all the time, are they fully alive in your experience? Are they passionate? Are they excited about life? Do they bounce out of bed in the morning? Do they get on and are excited about the different things that they're doing?
No. Mostly are quite flat.
Monotone,
Yeah.
passionless,
Yeah.
dispassionate.
Yeah.
So how many people here on the live stream would love to have more passion in their lives? How many would love to have more passion, more fulfillment, more joy, more fun, more play? Because these are your higher level needs. And if they're not being fulfilled, then you're going to feel dispassion. You're going to feel demotivated. You're going to feel may. You're going to feel like, oh, this is a drudge. I drag myself out of bed in the morning.
Yeah. Well, that explains why when we have more joy, more passion, more curiosity, more open, we become more attractive. It's like kids. Kids, when they have less of those baggage, like adult, they tend to be lighter, more lighthearted, more joyful, more curious, more open, and that's why they tend to be more. They are more magnetic. You get attracted to them more. I'm not referring to people who don't like kids in general. I know there are people who don't like kids. I'm not talking about that group of people.
Yes.
I'm talking about energetically, kids have more of that energy in them that is attractive when they are not as repressed and suppressed.
Yes.
And we can
So
actually have that as an adult.
we can have that as an adult.
Yeah. which will make us more attractive as a team member, as an employer, and as an employee.
And I think you're an excellent example as a role model of being passionate and enthusiastic and sharing and giving. And your daily LinkedIn posts where you're sharing your experiences, your lessons, your learnings, your trials and struggles, and you're sharing liberally what you got out of it with people is a great example that you can do that. And I think the feedback that you're getting from so many people who direct message you and thank you for your sharing is a great example of exactly that. And
thank you,
Victoria, we've reached the end of the hour. It goes so quickly when you and I chit chat, and this is what we do all day long, every day, all night. And there's a lot of conversation between you and I about a lot of these things. And we have to end these because everybody else has something they want to do, isn't it? But we could keep going and a lot of sharing.
It's lunchtime for most people in Asia. So
with the slides, if anyone would like a copy of the slides, you just direct message me on LinkedIn and ask for them, and I'll be happy to send you a PDF version because I know they're small on the screen. I tried to condense them and go through as little as possible, but I still have too many. So Victoria, would you like to wrap it up? If people want to do a game plan session with you, talking about how to fulfill these needs, how to motivate people, how to be a better leader, how to make more money, how to have a bigger impact,
how to find more passion, how to have more passion, how to do what you love and make the money you want.
So they can go to your profile, your LinkedIn profile, and they can see that there's a website there, and they can schedule a no obligation, no risk, no cost game plan session with you to focus on their leadership and what they can do to accelerate.
Yeah.
So would you like to wrap up the session? I'm going to leave you here. Thank you very much, and pass over to you to summarize and wrap up and say goodbye.
Thank you. So thank you, Harrison, and thank you everyone for being here. So today, we talk about leadership and motivation and how important it is to understand our own motivation and other people's motivation. And primarily it's driven by our unmet needs, and that anything that we don't have, we are more obsessed. So it's for me, this is part of self-awareness where, if we are aware of what we are obsessed with and what we don't have, then we have more chance of understanding our own motivation, which will help us to make changes should we want something different. And I would say that if we want to understand other people's motivation and to have less stress and frustration when it comes to leading them, having this understanding, in my experience, make a big difference. And yes, I've been through my own trial and error and struggle through the process, because sometimes it's not that easy to understand my own motivation due to some stuckness in whether it's repressed feeling or suppressed feeling that I might have that I wasn't aware of. But once I'm clear, it's actually very easy, and supporting people is a lot more joy. There is a lot more joy in working with people and leading people with this understanding, and easier to help them. Just for me, it's just more fulfilling if you want to work with a group of people and manage each other's expectation, and to be able to find the right fit on both sides, have a system to understand it. And this is the one that we're using. And if you're interested to know more, let us know. And I will see you next week. Oh, Harrison, shall I share our next week topic?
Yes, go ahead. Tell them the next week's topic.
In the poll, we have three subjects that we wanted to talk about. The top for today is motivation, and the second one will be personal leadership and personal branding. So we decided that since that's the second area that people are interested in, we are going to talk about that next week. Harrison, can't hear you.
Sorry, what can they expect from that next week? You're going to share your personal experience with your own branding and your own LinkedIn journey, and how you come up with so much content every day, how other people can create content easily. Because I've seen your image to me is like that crazy cat video where the cat is going like this on the keyboard.
And don't talk to me when I'm writing.
But, it takes Victoria about 30 minutes to write her posts every day or less.
Less,
and
15, 20 minutes.
15 to 20 minutes to create
Yeah.
the post. So a lot of people struggle to come up with content and what to say and how to say it. And following your journey, Victoria, you've done a great job of improving your writing, of communicating very clearly to people in an easy to read way, doing it daily, and your growth has reflected that. You have a very high profile, like your Favicon rating when we looked the other day was number 25 in Singapore in the top 2%. And this is after just a few months of posting. You're right up there with a 60% growth rate. So you've been rocketing up there, and there's a lot you can share with people, and that's what we'll be talking about next week.
Yeah.
And so that's that. Leadership and personal branding for leaders.
Yeah.
Why we all need a personal brand, because
Yeah.
if we don't have a personal brand, people don't know us. They don't know what our expertise is. So
Recognition. If they don't recognize you, they won't want to hear from you.
Isn't it also true that there's a lot of people who need services from people and they don't know you exist? So a lot of people are the best kept secret out there and nobody knows. So if nobody knows you, who you are, or what you have to offer, they're not going to ask.
Yep, agree.
People have a hard time asking, don't they?
Yep. Probably we can talk about that in the next one if we have time. All right. So that's it for today. We'll see you guys next Wednesday, same time, 12 p.m. Singapore time.
I want to add one more thing. We're going to be online at noon Singapore time every Wednesday doing these sessions.
Yes, that's right.
Yay. Thank you, everyone. Happy to see you.
Thank you.
Yay. See you next week.
Bye.